I've been a longtime Star Wars fan ever since I was 7 years old. And if you follow me on TikTok or Instagram, you'll notice that I wear a lot of Star Wars t-shirts in my videos. I also have the VHS collection that was released in 1995 because these were the very first Star Wars films that I had discovered. Later, I ended up owning the special edition on VHS. I just can't find them. And then the Star Wars DVDs that was released in full screen and widescreen back in 2004. The 2011 Blu-ray releases. The 2020 Blu-ray releases. Oh look, I also have them individually on DVD as well. And a rare VHS copy of A New Hope that my mom got me from a thrift store. I even have an Amazon Alexa with Baby Yoda as the holder. Star Wars books, Cards Against Star Wars throw blanket, Baby Yoda, more Baby Yoda, a journal that I rarely write in, a vintage clock, and there is also this sign where I hang my keys up that my mom made for me for Christmas. Call me crazy, but you know what? Star Wars fans are allowed to be crazy. So, as an individual with autism, you can probably understand why I was able to take the time to realize that Chewbacca may in fact be autistic. Hey everybody, it's William. I have a big announcement to make that I'm pretty sure that is going to gain me a lot of haters, but you know what? This is my life, this is my YouTube channel. Life is short, we only live once, so I'm going to have fun with it while it lasts, okay? For anybody who hates it, you are free to do whatever you want about it. Just don't expect me to engage with it so much. Anyways, now onto the topic. Chewbacca is autistic. I know, that's probably the last thing you would expect to hear about a Star Wars character. But if you're curious as to how I came up with that conclusion, then you are going to want to stick around through the entire video as I lay out the facts that indicate that he is in fact on the autism spectrum. But before we get started on this video, I want to point out a few things. There is nothing you can say to argue against my facts that I don't already know about, okay? I am perfectly well aware that Star Wars is a made-up universe. I am perfectly well aware that Chewbacca is an alien and that he has a native language. I know that he is from a different culture. But there are so many behaviors and characteristics that Chewbacca displays that kind of makes you wonder whether or not if he is on the autism spectrum or not, or at least resembles somebody on the spectrum. Now, also, I am very well aware that not everybody on the autism spectrum is the same person, okay? There are people on the spectrum that are nonverbal. There are people on the spectrum that are either outgoing or introverted. Everybody on the spectrum has different talents and different weaknesses. Chewbacca just happens to be his unique self on the spectrum. All right, enough of that. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into it. So, how exactly is Chewbacca autistic? Well, let's take a look at the first fact, shall we? 1, he is sensitive to noises and smells. So, if you think back to Star Wars A New Hope, when Han, Luke, and Chewie are rescuing Princess Leia from the detention center and they're pinned down by stormtroopers, Leia's quick escape plan is to jump right into the garbage chute. Chewie, however, is refusing to get into the garbage chute because he can't stand what he smells down there. Now, yes, many would agree that, the garbage smells horrible. Even Han concludes that it's a horrible smell. But Chewie was so hesitant to get into the garbage, even though his life was on the line, and same with the life of his friends, too. He was willing to jeopardize that just because of how sensitive he was to the smell. So doesn't that kind of make you think and wonder? And then noises, okay? In Empire Strikes Back, when Chewie is thrown into the holding cell on Bespin Cloud City, the Empire, they set off the alarms to torture Chewie, and he's screaming he's grabbing onto the ceiling racks, and he's just shaking, begging for it to stop. I don't know for sure how many people would be able to tolerate that, or how many people could not, but again, that could be an indicator that he is sensitive to certain noises. Number 2. His lack of communication skills. Obviously, Chewie's first language is not English. In fact, he doesn't speak English at all. So, all he does is roars and grunts. That is very similar to how a non-verbal autistic individual communicates. And very few people can understand Chewie, only like Han or C-3PO since he speaks over 6 million languages. Number 3, his lack of facial expressions. Many people on the autism spectrum are very monotone, and many people confuse them to be like sad or angry when in fact that's just their straight face. Oftentimes people think I never smile and that I'm serious all the time. Chewie, you can't really tell if he's happy or not. Then there's his difficulty with following directions. In The Empire Strikes Back, when Han and Chewie are stuck on Hoth, they're trying to repair the Falcon, but Han is having to correct Chewie so many times about how he's going about repairing the Falcon. Then, also, when they are captured on Bespin Cloud City and 3PO is shot to pieces, Chewie tries to reassemble him, but he ends up mistakenly putting 3PO's head on backwards. And then there's also his behavior. Chewie is prone to temper tantrums. We already talked about how he responds to sensitivity like noises. We also know that Chewie is prone to pulling the arms out of people's sockets if he were to lose at a game. A lot of people on the autism spectrum can be very emotional and aggressive, and they can be prone to temper tantrums as well. Not all people, but it is common for people on the spectrum. He is also very easily distracted. Like in Return of the Jedi, he suddenly smells something in the forest and he runs towards that, not knowing that he was setting himself and others into a trap. I myself, as an autistic individual, can get very easily distracted by things that interest me, and it's hard for me to focus and remain on the task at hand. There is also his lack of social interaction. In Star Wars A New Hope, you'll notice that he does not spend a lot of time with other people. He primarily just hangs out with Han, and he doesn't warm up to anybody else. But, over time, he does start to warm up to others. He is sensitive to surprise touches, like in A New Hope, when Luke devises a plan to rescue Princess Leia from the detention center, he tries to put handcuffs on Chewie, but Chewie is like, "Get away from me," and he's like screaming at Luke. Then he's also loving and affectionate. Yeah, he may have had an issue with Luke earlier, but eventually he warmed up to him, and he gave him a nice big hug in Empire Strikes Back when Luke was about to take off. He was also there to comfort Han after when he was released from carbonite freezing, and just kind of wrapped him up in his arms in the cell. Chewie is also loyal, too. He would never betray Han or turn against Han because of the relationship that he has with Han. Oh, and also celebrity impressions, okay? Myself, growing up as an autistic individual, I would just impersonate so many movie characters or celebrities. And Chewie, if you haven't noticed, he imitates Tarzan as he's swinging. So there you have it, folks. That's what I have to bring to the table. And just to kind of summarize this all up, Chewbacca is autistic. And the reason why I conclude that is because of his sensitivity to smells and noises, his sensitivity to surprise touches, the fact that he is nonverbal and communicates with grunts, growls, and noises, his lack of social interaction, his monotone facial expressions, prone to temper tantrums, celebrity impressions. Those are all very common aspects that a person on the autism spectrum would demonstrate, or at least given my case too as an autistic individual.